Right, my babies actually walked inside to, you know what? I read an article, I think 3 days ago, and it was about walking through doors and basically how walking through doors kind of like makes you lose your memory or forget what you were doing. And there were two schools of thought. One was walking into a new place kind of gives you a certain like form of maybe anxiety or something that kind of like allow takes your mind off of what you were thinking, or not not looking at not looking at the same environment allows you to kind of like delete the delete the short-term memories that you associate with that environment. What they called it was the shelf life of the memory, right? So like there's any memory that you put in your head, you kind of like either use it and it kind of gets stored in a better place every single time you work on top of it. And I think that's how thinking works. And they were kind of like debating, is it the new room or is it leaving the old room that kind of like allows you to see? But anyways, I want to get a pen. I couldn't find one. I forgot it. And I remembered this article and I showed it and I shared it with you. So I used a blue marker in order to scratch the old one. What's here? But today's video is pretending versus faking. Ah, pretending versus faking. And yes, I want to address this. There's a lot of people say fake it till you make it. But a lot of people kind of like, I think the popular pop culture, or just kind of like the normal sayings that we have, are not really at the best end of the spectrum in terms of the words they use. So here, I have opened in front of me Merriam-Webster, right? The dictionary. And one has pretend on it, and one has basically fake on it. Pretend is a verb, action, right? I guess faking as well is kind of becomes a verb. I'm faking it and pretending to be able to do it. No, I don't know. But faking is an adjective. To pretend means to give a false appearance of being, possessing, or performing. To make believe is the second thing that they used to say. To claim, to represent, to assert falsely. But to make believe, they gave it also feign. And three, archaic, venture, undertake. Something about pretending is archaic. And as an intransitive verb, do you guys know the difference between transitive and intransitive? I forgot. I read it sometime in the past. Whatever. To feign an action, part, or role, especially in play. To put in claim. You can use pretend actually as an adjective. And to pretend is not genuine and being an unfunctional imitation. Ah, fake. You can't use it as a verb. Fake literally means not true, not real, not genuine. Counterfeit, sham. As a noun, a worthiness imitation passed off as genuine. Worthless imitation passed off as genuine. A simulated movement in sports contests, such as pretended kick. So as a noun, it sounds, oh no, you can't actually use fake as a verb. To alter, to manipulate, to treat so as to give purpose, spuriously, with a U, cute, and to deceive an opponent, basically, to fake. Uh, I remember because like the fake it till you make it versus pretended it, like seeing is believing is seeing versus seeing is believing. And seeing is believing means you kind of have to fake it until you're able to believe in it. But believing is seeing means you kind of have to pretend it exists in order for you to see it. So you get my train of thought. I have spent 4 minutes and 48 seconds discussing random shit with you to get to that point. So seeing is believing versus believing is seeing. Seeing is believing And you either wait for something genuine or you fake something in order for you to create that belief. So I think is kind of like a valid approach, but I don't think it's an approach that's worthy of putting an effort in. Because if you were able to consider like faking something until you make it, why not consider why not consider pretending it exists for you to kind of like build everything around it so that it actually exists in the future? I think that's the difference. The faking part is you're faking for others, while the pretending part is kind of like pretending for yourself. Like I'm pretending to be a doctor as a kid. I'm pretending to be an engineer. I'm pretending to be farmer. I'm pretending to be all that stuff. I'm not faking it, right? Because I'm effectively like seeing myself in that position and actually like doing the things that that position requires. I think that's pretending. But faking seems to be just kind of like verbal, right? It seems just to be a story that's been rehearsed. And that's why like the actual meaning of fake is more of a worthless imitation passed off as genuine. Whilst pretending is kind of like being an unfunctional imitation, right? So, okay, so I think let's stick to these two. Pretending as an adjective is being an unfunctional imitation, whilst faking as a noun is a worthless imitation passed off as genuine. So, one being an unfunctional imitation, and the other one is basically a worthless imitation. The pretend and it's not really a functional imitation, but let's face it kind of builds some image, it builds some belief, it builds some like vision of how it's actually being done. Like anytime you're pretending to do something, what effectively you're doing is you're kind of like following suit on all the shit that you think would be required for it to make sense or for it to exist. And that's how we play pretend. Whilst with faking, you just gather the information and create a story about it. Imposter, charlatan. He told everyone he was a lawyer, but he was just fake. Yeah. Whilst the I'm reading what the examples for fake. Signature was fake. Whilst being an unfunctional imitation, a pretend train for the children to play in. Close. I was talking about like farming or like doctor or shit like this. You literally go and do the things a doctor does, right? When you're pretending. But when you're faking, you don't really like approach anything actively. Um, I'm definitely like I've struggled with both these words because like our idea of genuine is missing the transition. Like for somebody to become a doctor, he kind of pretended to be a doctor for a while. He acted like one, he moved like one, but he wasn't really like a doctor until he graduated. But as he progressed, he got closer and closer and closer because he got more genuine in the things that he was doing. And it's thanks to him pretending. And we could say pretending is the act of studying right now. Pretending is the act of like engaging with the subject. And pretending is the act like I could pretend to be in a relationship with somebody. Well, I can pretend to be in the relationship I want with somebody. Yeah, as in I would act in accordance to the things that I would want in the relationship until that becomes the reality of the relationship. Right? We're not faking a relationship in our head. We're not kind of like, I don't know, creating an alternate reality where something that doesn't really exist exists. We're using what we have, but we're handling it under the pretense. Under the pretense that it's something that it's seen the way we do. Because ultimately, like with everything you're approaching, you tend to kind of like you'd want the better, right? But ultimately, you want your view of what better is. So, in the pretense of that vision, we approach it. So, pretending gets you closer to a vision because ultimately the vision is not real until you kind of like pretend your way to it. And if you fake your way to it, eventually what you're building is something fake for the image to be on top of. So I think that'll be a good way to kind of like bring this topic. Pretending is basically the transition from non-existent to existent. And when it comes to you, right? I'm assuming when it comes to like life, the world, like everything, like a tree, even the weeds, as they grow, they kind of like, what are they pretending to do? I don't know. Well, they're pretending to be flowers until they flower, and then they are flowers, but technically they're weeds. And it's funny, it's just like really how we. My choice is pretending. The pretense, there's a lot more utility when it comes to your own mental train of thoughts when it comes to pretense. Everything about faking, has empty behind it. So pretending versus faking. Pretending definitely is the superior word depending on where you want to go in life. But at least yeah, can actually get a lot more quality from it than when it comes to like faking something. So I'd go for pretending, I guess, and this would be a good way to end the video. Hey, hey, it's a video. Sorry, man, I'm feeling melancholic or something. Episode 401.